Today on the news and why it matters, we have our analysis of the Democratic debates last night. Oh yeah, you're going to want to tune in for this because we know that you didn't tune in last night. Also, the impeachment hearings today, what you missed or didn't miss. Got a lot coming up and it starts right now. Welcome to the news and why it matters. I am Sarah Gonzalez, today joined by Mr. Stubergear.
I'm so glad I'm here. Thank you.
Are you?
Mm-hmm. I'm going to be more formal and respectful now in the show.
Now? Mm-hmm. I mean,
yeah,
finally.
I've been trying the opposite for a few years. So I think that's
We've also got from the Daily Wire, Josh Hammer, back in studio.
Sarah, in contradistinction to Stu's sarcasm, I really am happy to be here.
Aww,
Thank you. I appreciate someone actually being genuine around here. Mm-hmm. Got a lot to get into. First, we want to thank our sponsor, Relief Factor. So if you are one of many, millions of Americans that just live in pain, and you just think that that's the way life is, and maybe you've tried pharmaceutical drugs to just kind of mask the symptoms, that's not what you want, and you also don't need to walk around in pain all the time. You got to try Relief Factor. Relief Factor is 100% drug-free. It targets the inflammation in your body, which oftentimes is where your pain begins, and you just don't realize it. So maybe you've reached the age where everything hurts. You've reached the age that I'm at where I pull a muscle rolling out of bed in the morning. Whatever the case may be, maybe you're in the military and your joints aren't what they used to be because you just done too much damage to them. Try Relief Factor. We've got so many viewers out there. It has changed their lives. It can change yours. Try the 3-week Quick Start Pack. It's $19.95, and you will know at the end of that pack whether or not Relief Factor is going to work for you. You can go to relieffactor.com or you can call 800-500-8384. That is relieffactor.com. Go ahead. Try it. You'll see. It's worked for all of us. It can work for you. All right. So I feel like the left is trolling us right now because we've had a full, 2 days? We've had impeachment hearing, going into the Democratic debate last night, going into another impeachment hearing all day today. And I just feel like I want to jump off a bridge, quite frankly, after hearing all of this back to back to back. But Stu, did you watch the debates?
Yes.
Okay. You watched the highlights of the debates?
Yes, I've watched. I did watch a decent amount of it.
Okay.
There's only a certain amount that people can handle, especially after a whole day of impeachment hearings.
I know. That's what I'm saying.
Whiskey helps.
Whiskey does help.
Oh, I did find that out as well.
I hope the holidays are going to cure this because, man, right now this is a rough stretch we're in. I mean, hearing the impeachment hearings all day long, and then you're supposed to go at night and watch these Democrats debate, and it's hard to understand what any of their strategies are at this point. I mean, if you're a Cory Booker or you're a Andrew Yang and you're sitting there at the bottom, it didn't seem like there's much action at all, with the exception of two people at 3%, Gabbard and Harris going at it. There was really not much action at all, not a lot of fireworks, and you think you gotta stir this up a little bit at some point. I keep thinking this is going to happen. Hasn't happened yet. Going to happen at some point in this campaign. Someone's going to say something negative about Pete Buttigieg. At some point in one of these debates, one of these candidates is going to say, you know what, maybe that guy shouldn't be president, and here's why. Instead, I don't know if he's an untouchable class at this point. I don't know what the deal is. But
Amy Klobuchar kind of came at him a little bit, but it was
on the experience thing.
Yeah,
to go down
it was
that
kind
road.
of a veiled insult.
Look, the experience thing has some merit, right?
Mm-hmm.
We all understand.
I mean, we do have a president in the White House
who had none, right?
Literally zero political experience.
Frankly, that has at times probably hurt his effectiveness, right? I mean, it is nice if you have some experience. But this argument that basically well, he might be the best guy, but he's younger than me. It's not really a good argument. It almost in a way, it's if you're a sports fan, you're wait, the guy's better than you and younger? We need to sign him for even more money. It kind of sends a weird message. I understand that there is a level of maturity where you might say, okay, well, this person might not have the characteristics we want as a president. He hasn't had enough life experience. But Pete Buttigieg is kind of like an old guy in a young guy's body. Mm-hmm. He's very smart. He seems very he never gets rattled by anything. He's very smooth. So it doesn't seem like it has much effectiveness so far. And he always has the trump card of oh, I don't have an experience. Well, I was in the military. I've been defending the country, which is a pretty good point. Mm-hmm. So I don't know. I mean, I don't think if that's all you can come up against Buttigieg, he's got a chance to actually win this nomination.
Yeah. Josh, we've got some clips to get into, but what about the debates, if anything, stuck out the most to you?
So definitely overall a pretty lackluster affair. I mean, just not much in the way of fireworks. I mean, Stu, you're saying these people are polling at 2-3%. What are they doing up there? I mean, like now is on national television. You've got to take a stand. I mean, you've got to come out there and just say something crazy at bare minimum, like get some headlines or for God's sake. But what stood out to me is that Joe Biden looks just horrible. I don't really understand what has happened in these 3 years since the Obama presidency ended, but he's just losing it. And I don't take like joy in that as conservative. It's honestly like frankly pretty sad to watch, frankly.
Yeah. Speaking of Joe Biden looking like there's something wrong, quite frankly, and I don't mean that in a mean, condescending way. It's difficult to watch him up on that debate stage. Let's watch Joe Biden talking about what the two things the next president would need to do, also defeat Donald Trump. I don't know. Watch.
Right now, Republicans in Congress, including some of whom you've worked with for decades, are demanding investigations not only of you, but also of your son. How would you get those same Republicans to work with you?
Tough question.
Well, look, the next president of the United States can have to do two things. Defeat Donald Trump. That's number one. And number two, going to have to be able to go into states like Georgia and North Carolina and other places and get a Senate majority.
Now, again, I don't mean this in a mean way, but you can tell the way he closes his eyes. He's really having to concentrate really hard in order to get that sentence out. And I think that's what's so troubling. Everyone stumbles over their words, but he looks like he's really in trouble there.
Yeah, I mean, the facial expression on his face, just like the way he was looking down, the way he very sheepishly looked up, that is a look of a child who has his hand caught in the cookie jar. That's a look of a dog who has peed in the living room and is like about to be like, like whipped or whatever. He knows that he is just not on his A game. And again, I don't take like any joy in this. I mean, it's sad to watch. We all have kind of elderly relatives. We see grandparents kind of age, and it's just very sad.
Yeah, I mean, Biden, when he's trying to think through an answer, looks like someone who's trying to sprint in a pool. Like it's like
what a good analogy.
It just doesn't. It doesn't matter how hard you're trying to run. You're not fast in a pool. It doesn't happen. It really is. It's tough to watch. I mean, I made this argument on the show a few times in that Joe Biden is trying to do 1988 Joe Biden style in 2019, and he should try 2019 Joe Biden style, which that style should be slow and deliberate and short answer, almost Reagan 84.
Yeah.
Right? Like slow, deliberate, methodical, stick to your points, don't go crazy. You don't need to go crazy to win this nomination, just exist.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, on the contrary, I like anecdotally know a lot of people in my life who tell me that Biden is still the only person they would vote for, gaffes and all, because they view him as a return to normalcy. Well,
they're in for it if he actually becomes president.
Yeah, but like all that saying, like what Stu's saying is totally correct. Yeah. Biden does not have to get out there and like blare like I'm like the most liberal person. All he has to do is be sane, and he can't even like competently do that.
Yeah, a couple other difficult Joe Biden moments. He was talking about, I guess, women's rights, and he made this very bizarre comment about when it's okay to hit women. Watch.
And that's when we started this movement on the college campus, is to fundamentally change the culture. No man has a right to raise a hand to a woman in anger other than in self-defense, and that's rarely ever occurs. And so we have to just change the culture, period, and keep punching at it and punching at it and punching at it.
That's not what you want. And now the crowd laughed, which I was sitting there at home going, what are you saying? Why are you using that word? And the crowd laughed, and he's like, no, I'm serious. But not a good look, especially for the Democrat Party, for the left, for the Me Too movement, the makers of the Me Too movement, to say, well, you can't hit women unless it's in self-defense, and then pummel her. It's not a good look.
I mean, look, it does happen, right? We do know that women do assault men. Like there's MMA fighters out there that could probably beat the crap out of me.
Personal experience in this?
You're fiery though. I could see you totally going after Stephen.
Can I just, for the record, that's not happened. And I would like to just say, I'm not saying I actually think that if a woman comes at a man and starts swinging at him, he does have the right to defend himself. What I'm saying is the Democrat Party has moved so far from that particular viewpoint. That should be unacceptable for him to say in that party today.
Absolutely. I mean, I'm a lawyer, so I'm thinking about the law. In law, sometimes you have what's called a super precedent. It's not a real concept, but like the left they talk about what a super precedent is. A super precedent is a precedent that has been upheld already, so they call it a super precedent. It's totally made up term. From a Biden perspective, there are gaffes, and then there are super gaffes, like gaffes on gaffes on gaffes. Yeah. That is what that was. The punch it on top.
Yeah, that's the top one.
That's not what you want.
Because I mean, like the first part of it is a completely dumb thing to bring up.
Right.
Like we all know that there have been cases where, like, you know,
but why say it?
Like what's her face? You know, we've had movies. You know, what's her name? Oh God, I almost had her name there. But Monster, the movie Monster, was made about
Charlize Theron.
No, it wasn't. No, she's not actually the murderer. She was the actress.
Oh.
But the actual.
No,
murderer,
I didn't know that you were looking for the murderer.
I was looking for the murderer. I can't think of her name. But anyway, like. It has happened, right? It is super rare. And what he actually said, you know, look, it would be the absolute last resort in a million years. But if someone's about to stab you, of course you're going to do something, right? No reason to bring it up in a Democratic debate, though, number one. Everyone understands there's outliers. You don't need to hit all of them. Like, oh, well, you know, sometimes if a cat starts going after your eyes, you could throw the cat across the room. Well, we all know that. I guess that's true. It doesn't happen a lot. The other part, though, is when he goes to punching, of all things, just pick any other word. God. You know, like, it's just, he's just
what was he
really
even trying to say? I legitimately don't even understand what he was trying to say.
I think he was trying to say we need to attack the problem.
Right.
Yeah.
So we're punching at the problem. He just used a more illustrative word, but I don't think he meant to tie it at all.
No. And he didn't even understand why people were laughing. I'm serious. I'm serious.
I know. That's what he always says after one of those moments.
He's so serious.
Well, one more from Joe Biden. I found this to be, I think, the most awkward moment from Joe Biden, only because he made a comment about being endorsed by the only African-American woman elected to the Senate, which was kind of awkward considering who else was on the stage with him. Watch.
You know, I'm part of that Obama coalition. I come out of the black community in terms of my support. If you notice, I have more people supporting me in the black community that have announced for me because they know me. They know who I am. 3 former chairs of the Black Caucus. The only African-American woman that ever been elected to the United States Senate. A whole range of people.
No,
my point is
that's not true. The other one is here.
I said the first.
No, you didn't.
The first African-American elected. So my point is,
she handled that well, actually.
She did. Yeah. Well, that's the same laugh she gives for everything.
Yeah, it is true. It is true. But I mean, it was funny to jump in there. I do believe he said Blafrican American as well, which is fun. It's an awesome term. I've never heard it before.
I mean,
first Blafrican American.
In Biden's ever so mild defense, I think Kamala Harris is technically half Jamaican, half Indian. Right.
So Obama was also half white and half black, and he was our first black president.
Right.
So
yeah. I mean, look. He did say, of course, first. He did say only, not first.
And then, no, I said first.
And this is the way Joe Biden has a very unique bill. He's the San Diego Chargers or LA Chargers of these candidates. He has a unique way of sucking defeat out of victories. Like, he's got a great point. He's killing everybody with Blafrican voters. He is destroying everybody on that part. And nobody, like, that's a win. There should be a point where he's like, he has a record that is obviously admired by Blafrican voters, and yet they still, he still turns that into a place the thing that people are playing back, making fun of him.
Yeah.
And again, like, you could see him trying. I totally know what you're talking about when you say, like, it's like you have an elderly relative and like you see them struggling and it's hard.
Yeah.
And like, I don't know, like, Biden's never been a hateable character, I don't think, even to most conservatives. Like, he's kind of a guy, like, he's annoying sometimes, but you know, he's always been kind of funny and like you laugh at him and you can't really understand why he gets away with stuff. You know, this is hard to watch. Yeah. It's hard to watch.
Yeah. More from the debate last night when we come back. Just coined a new one. Before we get back into it, we want to thank our sponsor, Keeps. So losing your hair sucks, right? Like there's no way else to talk about it. Let's just be blunt here. And by the way, men, I'm talking to women too, because it happens to all of us. What you may not know is the cause of your hair loss could be a hormone called DHT. So there is a possible solution for this. Yay, you don't have to lose your hair. The FDA approved 2 hair treatment products that help control your DHT and prevent hair loss, and it has triggered hair regrowth in a really large percentage of men. Until now, those products were really expensive, and you got to go to the doctor and have these embarrassing conversations that you don't want to have. You don't have to do that anymore. Yay, thanks to modern day technology, you can go to Keeps. Keeps offers the generic versions of these 2 FDA approved hair products, and they are 90% up to 90% effective, totally affordable, and we got you half off to get you started. So you can go to keeps.com/Y. You will answer a few questions, take a few pictures of your hair, and a licensed doctor will review your information and recommend the right hair loss treatment for you. And then they ship it discreetly to your door, just in case you're embarrassed about it, which I wouldn't be, because it happens to a lot of people. But if you are, you got to go to keeps.com/Y. You will get 50% off to get you started. That is keeps.com/Y. Just to finish out this Democratic debate review, couple more things. Klobuchar, number 1, I was very concerned with her shaking. I haven't noticed it before. I don't know if either of you noticed it. She looked like a wet chihuahua. She was shaking all night. I mean, you could see her hair was visibly moving all night. Very, very bizarre. But here was one of the moments. I'm not quite sure what she was getting at. She wanted to talk about registering to vote at 18. Here's what she said.
I have led the way on voting, and I can tell you right now, one solution that would make a huge difference in this state would be allow every kid in the country to register to vote when they turn 18.
Wow, that's innovative.
Am I missing something? Is that not
I thought that was
what
kind of
we already have?
going on, yeah.
As someone I am an alum of the same law school as Amy Klobuchar, and she apparently has not read the 26th Amendment.
I'm just like,
It's kind of a big deal.
What did I miss? I was talking to my husband while she was speaking, and so we just caught the tail end of it, and I said, okay, surely she was just saying something about like it's an automatic registration, right? Like you don't have to actually go and register. She must have been talking about it just auto enrolls you. But then I went back and watched it, and I was like, no, that's not what she said.
There's also a big push for people to be able to vote at 16 from the left,
right?
Trying to lower the age. So
maybe
why not 14?
Yeah, why not? We
should just be happy that she said 18.
Yeah, I know. We should be happy with that. By the way, I was watching that clip, and I did notice the shaking.
It's bizarre.
And I think I know what it is.
What?
Because we're sitting in this studio right now. She's freezing. She is absolutely freezing up there, I think.
That's probably true.
That is. How many times has that happened to us? Like I'm constantly shivering on the show. Whenever Glenn's here, he makes it 10 degrees in here.
I have a blanket that's in my lap right now because I'm so cold. And then lastly, Elizabeth Warren. Now, Elizabeth Warren said a lot of crazy things last night. This one was particularly annoying to me, talking about abortion rights are human rights. Watch.
I believe that abortion rights are human rights. I believe that they are also economic rights. And protecting the right of a woman to be able to make decisions about her own body is fundamentally what we do and what we stand for as a Democratic Party. Understand this. When someone makes abortion illegal in America, rich women will still get abortions. It's just going to fall hard on poor women. It's going to fall hard on girls, women who don't even know that they're pregnant because they have been molested by an uncle. I want to be in America where everybody has a chance.
Are we supposed to assume that rich women don't get molested by their uncles?
Apparently not.
Apparently not. But I mean, look, the way the left talks about human rights in this debate is obviously, it is the ultimate bait and switch the entire century.
Everything is a human right now if they want it.
Everything's a human right if they want it, except for unborn children. Unborn children are not humans. They have no rights. They're just the blob of cells.
They're not women. They're women you don't care about, apparently.
Right.
Like half of them are, and there's no interest in helping them at all. It's such doctrine now on the left that I don't think anyone, it's difficult. I mean, Tulsi Gabbard got like booed for saying she didn't want third-term abortions, which is something only 14% of Americans support.
It's way after viability, by the way. So really interesting. I didn't think that Warren did anything for herself in that debate.
Yeah, I will say, like, first of all, this is the first time I think we've talked about this race since the plateau and slide of Warren. I mean, she's clearly on the downslide now. We know Buttigieg has kind of gone the upswing. There's been some nice polling for Sanders even over the past few days. And, Biden has pretty much held where he's been. He hasn't really changed the entire time. I don't know if the same people are just voting for him. But Warren doesn't have to be spectacular. She doesn't have to be what we were talking about with Gabbard or Harris. Like, she needs to hold her own. She probably did that. But did she blunt the momentum of Buttigieg? I don't think so. I mean, I think Buttigieg was probably the winner. Yeah. Warren, while she doesn't have to go crazy because she's already in that tier, she did nothing to help herself last night.
What did you think of Tom Steyer?
Steyer, I don't think is a legitimate threat, though I do find it interesting about how Democrats give him no attention at all, and it's because they're all mad that he's buying, his 4%. And it's like, well, the bottom line is individuals have to vote for the guy. Like, individuals are answering phone calls and saying, I would like to vote for Tom Steyer. I can't explain why they would want to do that, but they're saying it. And just because he's got a lot of money does not make that any less important. I mean, if he keeps spending his money, can he stay in these debates? He can get the donors for sure, because he can just continue to advertise until he gets the amount of donors. The question is, can he get up there in the polls? And he just the other day hit another 5% in an early state poll.
Did he really?
Was it New Hampshire? I can't remember. I think I want to say it was New Hampshire.
South Carolina. I think it was New Hampshire too.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, so he is like, people will put Cory Booker on the air every single day and talk to him about various things, and Julian Castro gets on the air. Tom Steyer is outpolling all of these people.
That's incredible.
He's outpolling Kamala Harris in some of these polls, Tulsi Gabbard in some of these polls, and certainly the people way down the line that aren't even making these debates anymore. I mean, right now he's probably 6th or 7th in this race.
Right.
And he gets absolutely no attention is because Democrats are like, well, that's not fair. And it's like, it doesn't matter. If he's president of the United States, which I don't think he's going to be, but it still counts.
Yeah. What do you think of Tom Steyer and then also Tulsi Gabbard?
So Tom Steyer, another thing that's hurting him, Stu, is that he's a white dude, and he's a white dude who's not a communist like Bernie and not a former vice president like Biden. So that's hurting him too.
And the billionaire thing does not help.
The billionaire thing definitely in this current party does not help, and that'll hurt Michael Bloomberg a lot too, obviously, if he actually gets in this race. Quick point on the Liz Warren thing. I think you're totally right. I mean, if you look at the national polling, she just has to tread her ground. But she's also competing for the exact same lane of voters, I think, as Buttigieg. It's this highly educated, elitist, Upper West Side, Ivy League grad crowd. And Buttigieg has all momentum, and Warren, I think, did absolutely nothing to recover the momentum that she has subsequently lost. On Tulsi Gabbard, I mean, I just find Tulsi Gabbard remarkably irksome. She profoundly bothers me, honestly. I mean,
really?
Yeah, and it's because she wraps herself in the flag. She calls herself a patriot. I'm not going to call her not a patriot. She served. Good for you. But she's literally meeting with Bashar al-Assad.
Yes,
you can't simultaneously wrap yourself in the flag and meet with sworn enemies of what this country stands for, in private. Those two things just do not go together. So she's remotely sane on the third-term abortion thing. She actually used to be a legitimate social conservative. She opposed same-sex marriage for a long time, actually.
Yes.
But she just really bothers me, honestly.
Yeah, no, it is a weird. She's a weird bird, man. I mean, it's an odd breed, I think, and it's interesting that she kind of has this background where her dad was a big time anti-gay rights activist for a very long time. One more quick point on the Warren situation. We've talked a lot about sort of that socialist lane, right, where Warren and Sanders are competing. What's interesting is the voters for Warren that are falling not to Sanders but to Buttigieg, and it's because they're not necessarily socialists, but they're rich, elite, educated white people, and those people are saying, I don't know, which one do I want, Warren or Buttigieg, and they're kind of now gravitating over to Buttigieg. Because the hardcore socialist people are going to go to Bernie.
Yeah.
Right. They don't want socialism light. Now, if he drops out, who knows what happens? But I don't think he ever will.
Yeah. Also, Tulsi, we get it. You look good in white. Can you just wear something else, please? Back in a minute.
That's true. She does wear white a lot, doesn't she?
Yeah.
She wore white in the one debate, and I think she got so much. If you want more analysis from 2020 election, impeachment, all of that, you got to subscribe to Josh's newsletter. It's called Election Wire. Where can they do it?
So you go to the Daily Wire, there'll be a banner on the bottom of our website that says subscribe here. You type in your email address. I tweet it out today too, so go to Josh_Hammer, you'll see it right there. It's called Election Wire, weekly on Thursdays, election analysis, polling analysis, good stuff.
Awesome. And I mean, as an added bonus, you get way smarter commentary from him than you do from any of us.
No, absolutely.
So.